Hello, good evening, and welcome to Hot Edition on 3FM 92.7. We are live around the world on 3news.com. That's our website, and also streaming on Facebook. I am Martin Asiedu Dartey, and I'll be in the next few minutes introducing my colleagues who will be helping us through the next hour and a half of news coming in from our studio at Adesawe in Accra. Be part of the show. Let's hear what you make of the many stories we have for you tonight. Before we delve into specifics and details, let's bring you highlights of the big stories making rounds in the country.
Thank you, Martin, and welcome to the news summary segment. My name is Safwa Bwahine, and let's settle for the details now. The National Entrepreneurship and Innovation Program, NEP, has announced the temporary suspension of all staff over unresolved employment and legal issues. Management revealed that due to these ongoing challenges, operational funds cannot be used to cover staff allowances at this time. Also, the Lands and Natural Resources Minister, Emmanuel Amakufibua, has declared a crackdown on illegal mining, warning that no one will be spared regardless of political ties. A joint task force has cleared miners from the Ofin Shelter Belt Forest Reserve in Ashanti region, arresting several individuals and seizing 15 excavators. Also, social activist group Democracy Hub and the Convention People's Party CPP have filed a lawsuit at the Supreme Court seeking the removal of Kotoke's name from Accra International Airport. In a statement, Democracy Hub described the move as an effort to correct historical injustices, challenging the glorification of unconstitutional rule and uphold Ghana's commitment to democratic governance as outlined in the 1992 Constitution. Away from that, the National Association of Graduate Teachers is calling for a review of disciplinary measures in senior high schools to empower school heads to handle unruly students effectively following the Sokode Senior High Technical School in the Volta region violent clashes. And to our last story now, security agencies have intensified intelligence and surveillance efforts to identify those behind a recent pattern of unexplained deaths in Boli. Regional and municipal security councils have vowed to crack down on the perpetrators and uncover the mystery behind these incidents. And this brings us to the end of our news summary segment. And over to you, Martin.
Thank you very much, Safwa Bwahine, for the update in terms of news summaries. The big stories again that are making headlines this evening. Samos Pharma Company at the center of the alleged highly dangerous opioid trade in Ghana denies BBC Africa Eye accusation. We will bring you details from a statement issued by the company in a moment. Meanwhile, the Pharmaceutical Association of Ghana is demanding immediate investigations into the saga. If you've been following on the BBC, it was live, and the documentary has sent many people commenting on how they did not expect this to, take over their communities with young people full of filled with these drugs and on the roadsides and the street corners, something the state has paid particular attention to, and investigations are set to commence shortly. And talking about investigations, the National Intelligence Bureau, the NIB, has invited former Minister for Railway Development, the Honorable Joe Gartey, for questioning in regard to the botched SkyTrain saga. You'd recall that some $2 million had been expended in line with the construction of a SkyTrain, which as of now, little to nothing is there to show for it physically. We'll give you details of what exactly is behind this invitation and what to expect going forward. And another story we're keeping tabs on is that the Minister for Lands and Natural Resources, Emmanuel Amakufibua, has been talking tough on government's resolve to decisively deal with Galamsey menace as he toured some illegal mining areas in the Ashanti region. Details of all these and more coming up. Definitely all of these issues are national in nature, so wherever you're listening to us from, let's hear you, and we'll be happy to share your thoughts with the rest of the world. Meanwhile, we know that the deputy minister nominees of President John Dramani Mahama's administration are currently facing the Appointments Committee of Parliament. A few minutes ago, we had Thomas Nyako Ampem, who is deputy finance minister designate. He sat before the committee for well about 2 hours answering questions from issues about the Women's World Bank and then also the 24-hour economy and how the NDC government intends to implement these policies. He has been discharged and we'll be hearing from the committee hopefully shortly. The next person in front of the committee right now is Ebenezer Oklete Telabi, who is the minister designate for the Interior, and he is also taking questions from the committee. Let's join the feed now and later bring you some of the key headlines that we have just read out to you.
We do not insecurity. Well, thank you very much. I think that with that finding, what it means is that we are doing something right. But come to think about it, you realize that there's still room for some improvement. And if I listened to my boss to be, he made some, recommendations in terms of, deploying technology where it is lacking for policing and other, services under the Ministry of Interior, so they can discharge their duties creditably and then bring more, safety, into our country, so we can continue to get the kind of ratings that we are having now. Thank you.
Honorable Chair, to another substantive question. What is the status of Dr. Akufo-Dampare, the IGP of this country?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I wish I could tell you, but I'm a deputy minister to be, and I am even not yet there. I've not even had the opportunity to sit in any meeting to even, eavesdrop, sort of, but I cannot answer this for now. It is for the president to decide. Thank you.
A follow-up to this. Given the sterling leadership record of the IGP within the period of his tenure and the reforms he has brought to improving the police service, would you advise that in line with maintaining the security sector governance integrity and to promote professionalism, that he's maintained to full term to continue the good work he's doing for Mother Ghana?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair, as I said, I wish I had that authority, but I don't have. And the appointing authority may be looking at other things other than what you think is the case. I don't know whether this is a very good platform for me to give you a particular example. Sometimes you think you are doing your best as a football player, but your coach will substitute you. What he sees outside, sitting on the bench, is different from what is happening on the field. What you see on the field. So let us leave it to the president, the appointing authority, to decide. Thank you very much.
Congratulations, Honorable Deputy Minister nominee.
Thank you very much.
I wish you Godspeed.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Honorable. I will come to my right and take two on if there is a subject matter or any other. But I'll start with a subject matter if there is one. Otherwise, I think
I'll start with yes.
Yeah, okay, so let's start with the Honorable. Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Yes, 2 weeks ago I had a fire outbreak in my constituency, and to get the NADMO to come to our aid was very difficult. In fact, I was directed to the national NADMO headquarters, and they kept tossing me. At the end, I had to, make ways and means to get relief items to the people. How are you going to support the National Disaster Management Organization, NADMO, for improving disaster response? Quick response, yeah. Thank you.
Thank you very much. As I said, you require funding for such operations, and I believe that my boss, as he said here, has some very good working relationship with the finance minister, and therefore would always be at his door to get him to support the services under his ministry. And I will do same if he gives me the opportunity to do follow-ups for him. I'm going to do that to get finance to support us. We know we are in difficult times, but will help. A constant reminder will help in prioritizing some of our institutions that are very important when it comes to maintenance of our, peace, security, and safety in this country's concern. Thank you.
Are you done, Honorable?
Last one. Prisons. It's a very big issue. I visited a friend recently, and I think overcrowding is a problem. What are you bringing on board to solve this issue?
Thank you very much. Once again, I will make reference to what my boss said, my boss to be said over here. But then I'm living with one in my constituency. The last time I visited Akuse prisons, I felt very sorry. My friends that I went with, some of them were in tears, because it's a place that any of us can be at any time, and therefore we need to be reminded that they are there, and they also need to, live like us. After all, the essence of keeping them there is to reform them. But if you are reforming somebody and you don't take good care of the person, they come out with various diseases here and there, skin rashes, whatever. They don't even, when they come out, that is one of the reasons why people will not want to associate with them. So there's this idea of partnering with the private sector to build prisons so that we can rent, like it's happening in the US and other places. We would have to look at that. The other thing too is that some of the prisons in what would be described as prime areas now can be relocated. We get the private sector in exchange for better, bigger places outside where you can get cheaper land. Because I don't think that it is, at all costs, the prisons must be where they are now. No, they can be relocated so that we can make use of that. But I think that one will also require serious, discussions, and we'll look at the cost benefits, how it's going to benefit them before we go into it. Thank you very much.
Sure.
Thank you.
Your last question.
Yes, please. Recently, we heard the president of Burkina Faso came out with the way to use the prisons in farming. Will you want to adopt such how should I say? Yes, labor so that we could have them, because I was thinking that the food shortage in our secondary schools, if you can have in the future some farms that we can use them as labor to produce, to help our secondary school children. Do you have any plans of that thing?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think that this is in line with the previous question about whether I would support the prisons going to commercial farming. I think that when you do that, whatever they have can also be given to the secondary schools. Not to say that they cannot be, hired to by the private sector. That can also be done. Yes, thank you.
Thank you very much. I want to move on to the next subject matter again on the right. Thank you. Honorable, we have the floor.
Thank you so much for the opportunity, Chair. Congratulations, Honorable Telabi.
Thank you
for your nomination. I've worked closely with you in the committee, and I know your capacity. I know what you are capable of bringing on board. I wish you well in your new ministry. And I just have one question for you. There's a worrying trend that I have observed among security apparatus. The national security on one hand, army, then police. Sometimes it's so embarrassing that you find these security apparatus fighting at the glimpse of the public, those who are supposed to provide security. So embarrassing. So what steps will you take if you find yourself approved to support your boss to be able to...
Honorable, please step away from the mic to stop the echo. Yeah.
All right. So what steps will you take to support your substantive minister to bring a lasting solution to this menace that I have just narrated? Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think that, it's the security services are human institutions, and sometimes they can go overboard. But then, I believe that there must be that level of respect for each other, and it will come by constant interaction. I don't know whether we still have the CISA sports that we used to have in the years by, where the security services, engage themselves in various sports activities. I don't know whether it is still. Sometimes that can also bring some misunderstanding, which can lead to fight. But sports brings unity, and when we do that, coupled with serious collaboration, they will see themselves as colleagues with the same, objective of securing this country of ours. Thank you.
All right, so thank you. I'm done. Congratulations. I wish you all the best.
Thank you very much. I think I will again return back to the left, and I will call on Honorable Damwa. Please take the floor. Thank you.
Once again, I want to add my voice to congratulate you on your appointment.
Thank you.
I also want to assure you that you're also my in-law. My sister that I followed was married to a Krobo man from Sumenya. So I've actually do and go in my soul.
Thank you very much.
So you are also my contact.
Thank you.
Honorable, I'm also happy that you worked as a Deputy Minister for Defense, and therefore now going to the Interior Ministry, you are going to try as much as possible to bring about cohesion between the Ministry of Defense and Ministry of Interior, especially between the military and the police in internal security operations. With all due respect, how would you advise your minister or help your minister to define clearly the military supporting the police in internal security operations so that we won't have frictions and overlaps and the challenges that we normally encounter when we work together, meaning the police and the military work together?
Thank you very much. I think that what we can do, as I said, is some form of collaboration. And each person must, especially the military must understand that when it comes to internal issues, they must be invited to be part of whatever operations that the police is undertaking. If that is understood, we will not have any issues when it comes to, the extent to which they can take part in internal security issues. I think that's very clear. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, a follow-up question on that. I believe the standard operating procedures are clear, that the police are in charge of internal security and that the military will only come in support of civil authority and order. But we have that challenge. When the normal procedure is there, but then how to assess and know at what critical moment the military should come in and the correct procedure. The moment the police find it challenging, they easily bring in the military. That's where the challenge. And once the military comes in, they think that the police were unable to handle the situation. And based on the training that the military has, and then what the police. So we have that friction, and then it turns out to be something. So that's why I was saying that how to really get the two to know what they know already, work together effectively in a manner that the general population, that whatever we do is to benefit, would really appreciate what we do rather than the friction and the excesses that occasionally we see in their operations.
Thank you very much. I believe that through, as I said, some form of collaboration, we get to share intelligence from each side. If the police is aware of what the military, is doing, or what the military knows, and the military, in the same vein also knows what the police, operations and whatever their modus operandi, everything is known to the military. When they are invited, they will not be surprised. They would really appreciate and know that they are in to complement, not to take over. And I think that that is the way to go. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, my next question. Okay. There is an issue about capacity building in the security institutions under the Ministry of Interior. For example, with the armed forces, taking the army, infantry, the soldiers, and the officers all. We have the basic training. Then within the basic training, we have B3, B2, B1, and then we go for the advanced training. And then with the infantry, they go for section commanders training, platoon sergeants training, weapons training, drill and duty. So at every stage, before you get your next promotion, there's a form of training, capacity building. My relationship with my colleagues in the Ministry of Interior, it appears they don't have well-defined capacity building.
Oh, please.
So the question itself is coming.
Go ahead.
The question is that he's my acquaintance, so I need to really let him be comfortable. So when you get a note, the police and the other security services, this is an area of concern. What will you do to ensure that they also have similar arrangements by way of capacity building?
Thank you very much. I think that this is one of my experiences that I'm going to, take to the Ministry of Interior. As I do my work as a deputy minister, when the need arises for me to prefer some of these, programs to my boss, I will do that. Given what, I experience, with the military, I would prefer those, experiences to him. And if he finds them necessary, we take them on board with my support. Thank you.
You're listening to 3FM 92.7. We're going straight to the headlines we brought to you earlier. Now we just came from the precincts of Parliament where Ebenezer Oklete-Telabi, who is the Minister Designate for the Interior, Deputy Interior Minister Designate, has been taking questions from the Appointments Committee regarding what he intends to do if he's given the nod by the committee to be deputy to the substantive minister who's already taken post. So we'll definitely be crossing over to Parliament, hopefully in the latter part of this program, to see how that vetting is concluding. But before that, let's bring you details of the headlines we read out to you a few minutes ago. Now, the most topical one has to do with the outbreak of opioids in parts of the country, specifically the northern part of the country, and the Pharmaceutical Society of Ghana has waded into the conversation, and they are asking for immediate investigations into named pharmaceutical importers who allegedly are responsible for importing highly dangerous opioids into Ghana. A recent BBC Africa Eye investigation revealed Ghana as a transit point for dangerous substances to other West African countries. Per the investigations, an Indian company, Avio Pharmaceuticals, has been exporting Tafrodol, Tamiflu, and Super Royal 225 into the country via the support of local pharmaceutical companies. According to the Pharmaceutical Society, relevant investigative bodies must come together to investigate and prosecute all companies involved. Meanwhile, one of the pharmaceutical companies implicated in the BBC Africa Eye report, Samos Pharma Limited, has denied the claims in the BBC report, details of which we will be bringing to you shortly. But first, let's go to the phone lines and speak to Dr. Richmond Edusa Poku, who is an executive member of the Pharmaceutical Society of Ghana. Doc, a very good evening to you. Thank you for joining us on 3FM.
Yeah, good evening, sir.
To start with, what are some of the specific allegations or findings in the BBC Africa Eye report that has come to your attention, for which reason you're asking for an investigation?
Okay, so what has come to our attention, opioid preparation, which are detrimental to the health of consumers. And the popular one is the Tafrodol, which has the strength almost like twice that of Tramadol. I think many Ghanaians have heard of Tramadol before. So this type of medication is not good for the health of teens or the youth who are upcountry and who are allegedly supposed to be consuming these medications. This is what has come to our attention, and we want to make sure that it is addressed. Particularly so because these medications will naturally affect the mental health of the youth who consume these things. They'll get addicted. And when you have substance abuse occurring, and that's allegedly being stated by the documentary, the movement of these medications is not just in Tamale, but it will move up north through Burkina Faso to Mali and Niger. And we all know the things that are happening in these countries as far as warfare is concerned. So it's not anything that we should tolerate at all.
And have you, as a society in Ghana, already initiated some investigations? And what kind of findings do you have? How widespread is this tafradol you're referring to? You know, how widespread is its availability in the system?
That may be difficult to tell. BBC never contacted the Pharmaceutical Society of Ghana concerning this investigation. That's why the Pharmaceutical Society of Ghana is calling on all the security agencies. We are calling on the National Intelligence Bureau. We are calling on the Narcotics Control Authority. We are calling on the police, the CID division of the Ghana Police Service, and all relevant agencies, even including immigration, because at our land borders, if these things pass through, it's the immigration officers, our security officers, who have to check these things. So the Interior Ministry, that will have to make sure that our security is well organized. We are calling on all these agencies as PSG that they must all come together and form an interagency committee or body to clearly investigate this. Of course, we cannot rule out our regulatory authorities, that's the Food and Drugs Authority and the Pharmaceutical Council in this particular case.
Right. So, on the face of it, should it be our understanding that what is currently in the country were all imported? They are not being prepared or manufactured in the country. From your preliminary analysis of the situation, they all must have been imported into the jurisdiction. Is that the case?
Definitely so. If you visit the website of the FDA, where they publish all the registered medications in this country, you realize that none of these medications, Tamakin, etc., none of them are registered. They are not officially registered. And as the BBC documentary told us, nowhere in the world is this combination ever registered. So if we found its way onto our markets, it definitely means that it was illegally smuggled into the country and never approved by the FDA.
And maybe
so the national investigation will have to be how come if application was not made for it because one is not registered, therefore you cannot even apply to the FDA to import it. Then from the Indian source, if their export is showing that these drugs were given to a consignee, if the bill of ladings are showing all those things, along the way, what happened? Did that bill of lading land in Ghana? If it did, at Tamaport, for instance, what was the role of customs in that area? Who cleared these goods onto the market? Is it really the stated consignee as on the paper, or another ring of people may be involved in these things? So this is what must be investigated by our security agencies.
Okay. And maybe finally before you go, so what should we expect from you in terms of collaboration with the state agencies who would be undertaking this investigation? Because you clearly sound quite concerned about how this seemed to have sneaked into the country on the blind side of the association and even the FDA and other key state agencies, and found its way into, the systems of the very regular Ghanaian or youth in, not even in the capital, but as far as the northern part of the country. How are you willing, in terms of collaboration with state agencies, to get to the bottom of this?
Our doors are more than open. Unlike tramadol, which we legally sell in our community pharmacies and the hospitals. So when that crisis came up, we were very much involved. This one is an off-label drug which is not even used in any community pharmacy or hospital. So since we have pharmacists everywhere, in government, in private, and in the regulatory areas, pharmacists are everywhere, and they're all members of the Pharmaceutical Society of Ghana. It means that our doors will be open for any investigations that will lead to the culprits being found out, and the justice must be served to our people.
Thank you for making time to speak with us this evening, Dr. Richmond Edusa Poku. He is he's an executive member of the Pharmaceutical Society of Ghana, and clearly it's a concerning issue having to do with the influx of Tafrodol, Timaking, and Super Royal 225, which have been imported into the country and currently in use by a number of young people across the country, specifically in the northern part of the country. But the company, a particular company which is at the center of this importation, has released a statement denying the fact that they had been involved in importing highly dangerous opioids. They've released a statement, and Eric Mawana, my colleague, has details of that statement. He's joined us for the statement detail. What are they saying? Are they accepting or denying?
Well, they are denying categorically any role at all played based on the revelations as captured in the BBC Africa allegations. They are describing it as a serious act of defamation, one that they are not taking lightly at all. Amongst many other things, they say that that's Samos Pharma Limited and its subsidiaries categorically deny the false allegations in the BBC Africa Eye investigations report. And regarding unlicensed opioid import, they say that the claims are baseless and defamatory, and they suspect fraudulent use of their corporate identity and a clear case of criminal impersonation. That's one. And so they are making the argument that the persons who may have been captured in the investigative piece using their name may have been engaged in criminal impersonation. They say that the BBC did write to them allegedly that they had evidence to their trade in the mentioned opioids, that's tapentadol and caresprodol, and to which they responded and denied to in no uncertain terms. They go on to say that at no point the BBC or BBC Africa Eye enter the offices or facilities of their company, which is Samos Pharma, to ascertain the veracity of their claims, and this they find very scandalous and libelous. That when they deny these claims, they were expecting that the BBC would have proceeded to their offices to seek to verify for themselves whether or not indeed they are the individuals behind the importation of these dangerous substances, which we know, my colleague Christopher Mwako has details of, is being abused in the northern part of the country. Now, they go on to say that they have never imported or traded in the above named substances, either individually or in combination. They've always strived to be compliant with all industry standards and operate strictly with the Food and Drugs Authority's guidelines, the Pharmacy Council, and all other relevant stakeholders' regulations and guidelines, and that they have on that basis decided to take a set of actions. The first is they've engaged their legal counsel and issued a cease and desist order to BBC and BBC Africa Eye and their partners from proceeding to air the documentary piece. They've also filed formal complaints with the Food and Drugs Authority Ghana, the CID Ghana Police Service, and the Indian High Commission to investigate potential impersonation. They also say that they've prepared legal action against BBC and BBC Africa Eye and their collaborators for defamation. And lastly, they are cooperating fully with authorities to uncover the real offenders behind the illegal opioid trade. Now, they go on to say that they strongly condemn the illegal opioid trade and support efforts to combat drug abuse in the country. Martin.
Right. Thank you very much for those updates or details of the statement released by Samos Pharma Limited. They have been the center of the storm. And joining us on phone now is the managing director of Samos Pharma Limited, Eugene Boakye. Mr. Boakye, good evening. Thank you for joining us on 3FM.
Good evening, sir.
Your statement, as just read out by my colleague, clearly, denies and, says that there is no attribution whatsoever to your company having to do with these opioids that we are hearing about in the country. Do you at least import any such drug that have these components in them, or you do not bring in any such thing at all?
Martin, your name, sir?
Yes, my name is Martin.
Martin, we as a company, Samos Pharma, do not import any product or any combination that has tapentadol or carisoprodol or anything of that. We have never imported that product from anywhere, from India or anywhere in the world.
So, how come you have been clearly mentioned in the documentary, which I'm sure you have seen? You are said to have been the key importer of various pharmaceutical products, and they have included these ones that you say you do not import. How did you get into this picture?
Yeah, so for us, it is also a mystery to us. That is why we took steps when it came to our attention about some these companies exporting products to Samos Pharma that we were not aware of. We took steps to report to our regulator and then to the CID. Because for us, we believe that it is a clear case of criminal impersonation, somebody using our company credentials to perpetuate this illegality. So for us, we do not know these companies. We've never imported those products. But then the export data that we have also seen, and then what I'm sure the BBC was relying on, shows an export of these opioid products to Samos Pharma. As to who is using our name to bring in these medications, whether they are clearing it through official means or illegally, we do not know. That's why we've taken steps and reported the issue to the CID for them to take it up and get us the real perpetrators behind this whole issue.
The company that manufactures these opioids, based on the report, is Avio Pharmaceuticals. Do you do any business with them?
We have never done any business with Asiedu Pharmaceuticals and Western International. We've never done any business whatsoever with them.
And now that you say you're already collaborating, or at least you've reported to the state agencies to investigate, at what point did it come to the attention of Samos Pharma that your name has been captured in a report? Was it during the airing of the report or prior to that?
No, so it came to our attention late December, right? And so if I don't know if you have seen the complete export data from India that the BBC relied on, and my office is ready to share that with you. That it's there's even another company, PRG Pharma, that had exported a lot of these medications to the supposed into Ghana in our company's name. So we wrote to them officially, telling them of the illegality and that whoever they are dealing with posing as Samos Pharma is criminal and doesn't represent us, and hence they should get in touch with us for us to know exactly who is behind it. But they never responded, right? And I can share documents again with you of, and the similar export data for January, that shows that same company still exporting that same tapentadol to Ghana, but this time it is not coming to the importer. Is not Samos Pharma, but it's a different company, APQ Company Limited, right? How the and if you look at the export data, this thing has gone on for some time. But then it came to our attention in December, and once it did, we took steps to petition the CID, petition the FDA and the Indian High Commission, because there are Indian companies involved,
right?
So that they would also investigate as to how come somebody could go to a manufacturer in India and use somebody else's credentials without they verifying whether truly that person is who he says he is, and just starts trading with the individual.
Right, and that will bring me to my last question, which is that Then what kind of impact has this had on the operations of your company or the reputation of Samos Pharma Limited?
Yeah, of course. So for us, we have always maintained our innocence, and we have always worked with integrity. The products that we import and supply are registered by the Food and Drugs Authority Ghana, and all our records are there for everybody who wants to know the truth to come and peruse them. Of course, these things, we have business partners, we have entities that we supply to, sending us these videos, showing concern as to how come. But then those that we've dealt with over the years know that we have never dealt with these products in any shape or form.
Right.
But it is a very difficult period for us. But then we are hopeful that the truth is always one, and we maintain our innocence, and we will prove it.
Okay.
So that is why our lawyers have taken steps to redeem our image by taking steps to file defamation against BBC, because we believe that the BBC report did a very poor job in arriving and concluding, relying on only this export data, that Samos Pharma is complicit, without they even taking steps to even come to our premises to ascertain whether we indeed carry this product or not.
Right. Mr. Boakye, thank you for making time to share your side of the story with us, and definitely as investigations are currently ongoing, we'll see how it plays out and see what the next days hold for us. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, the managing director of Samos Pharma Limited, Eugene Boakye, who has just denied again from the statement. They clearly stated their denial, and he has also just reconfirmed the fact that they have no knowledge of any such products being imported into the country, and they are suspecting that some individuals or institutions are using their credentials to import these illegal medications into the country, which, based on reports, is already taking adverse toll on Ghanaian youth, especially in the northern part of the country, and also being spread to other West African countries. The state security apparatus is currently investigating this, and in the coming days, hopefully, we'll get some substantive information for you regarding it. You're still listening to 3FM 92.7. This is Hot Edition. We are live around the world on 3news.com. And be part of the show. Let's hear what you make of the many stories that we have already rolled out, including the fact that there currently is a vetting of deputy ministerial nominees of John Dramani Mahama's administration. Started earlier in the day and still ongoing. And I will update you as and when situations do change. Let's take a quick trip to the Ashanti region, because today it looks as though some major activities have been ongoing there. It's been a tough battle, but the government is not relenting on its effort to bring an end to illegal mining. The Ministry of Lands and Natural Resources has initiated steps in a bid to move out all illegal miners from forest reserves and on water bodies. For months, illegal miners took over portions of all 6 forest reserves within the Nkaria Forest District in the Ashanti region. Attempts by forest guards to move them out have been unsuccessful. Several hectares have also been destroyed to pave way for the extraction of gold, particularly within the Offin Shelter Belt, Asenayo and Jimira forest reserves. But the government, in a renewed effort to reclaim all Ghana's water bodies and forest reserves, has begun clamping down on these miners. Let's speak to Ibrahim Abubakar, our Ashanti regional correspondent, who's been following the Minister for Lands and Natural Resources and the Ashanti regional minister, who visited a number of these mining sites, or illegal mining sites, I should say, and has been talking tough. Ibrahim, good evening. Thank you for joining us on 3FM 92.7 this evening.
Good evening, Martin.
And so, how many specific areas did the minister visit before coming to that conclusion that they will deal decisively with these illegal miners?
So the minister has been touring about 3 forest reserves within the Kawiya Forest District. And all these places, we've seen that the military and the police have been deployed in these areas to be able to reclaim the areas. In fact, these are some of the, or I would say, some of the most dangerous forest reserves to enter. I remember last year, November, January, when we went there, even with the Forestry Commission, the tax who were holding arms asked us to return, and we had to because they overnumbered the even number of security officials that have been there. So these are areas that the illegal miners have declared as no-go zone, even for the forestry officials, and they've taken over and were mining there with impunity. So the minister had to deploy these men there, and as we speak, they've been able to seize 15 excavators and also effected some arrests. In fact, we've been told that hopefully by tomorrow or tomorrow next, all the people who have been arrested will be put before the court. And now they want to deal with the fight holistically this time around, and they want to even go further to investigate the people who own those sites and even financiers of the illegal activity so that they arrest all of them and prosecute them. Because over the years, the issue has been going there, arrest those who are mining and putting them before court. But we do know that most of these guys are mere laborers. So even if you arrest them, you put them before court, you jail them, the next month or two, we see another set of workers coming back to the same site to continue with their illegal operation. So this time around, the minister is saying no. They have 44 forest reserves across the country that they've identified, and currently we have illegal miners taking over. They want to reclaim all these 44 forest reserves, hopefully by the end of the year or next year, so that at least we will be able to be successful in the fight against illegal mining. We also do know that the president has issued directive to the team not to burn any excavators. So out of the 15, all have been moved to the police station at Nkawe. And the Ashanti Regional Minister, who happens to be the head of Security Council, has said that they will use these excavators to construct roads. So all these 15 excavators will be put as part of the fleet of the drip machine so that they will be used in fixing our roads and also improving our sanitation. So this time around, they wouldn't be burning them, but to rather put them to good use.
Right. Ibrahim, can you paint a picture for us when you got to some of these sites? What did you see? How dire is the situation regarding our forest reserves and water bodies and how they've been degraded?
Well, Martin, I can tell you it's very, very scary because especially with the Offin Shelter Belt, when we got there, where we went, 30 hectares of land, everything is gone. And this was done within a short period. We are not even talking about the devastation that was caused last year. This is just within 2 months that we are seeing close to 30 hectares being destroyed. You go to Asiedu Forest Belt, over 13 hectares have also been destroyed within the past 2 weeks. Same with Genera Forest Reserve. So you go there and you see the level of devastation, you are shocked and you are scared looking at the future of the country. And most of the water bodies have also been heavily polluted. As I speak to you, Ghana Water is even thinking about shutting down its water treatment plant at Odaso because the Oda River has heavily been polluted and they are able to get only 30% out of the water they treat. So water rationing is very common around the areas of Wati. So they are looking at all these things, and this time around, for the first time, they want to be successful in the fight. So holistic approach, engaging stakeholders, including chiefs, residents, and also making sure that they decentralize the mining license regime so that at least people will be able to apply. That is when they will also be able to regulate their activities.
Ibrahim, there is a lot more to talk about, but I would have to leave it here for now. Thank you so much for joining us on this particular issue. Ibrahim Abubakar is our Ashanti regional correspondent, updating us on the regional minister and the lands and natural resources minister's visit to a number of illegal mining sites. Specifically, we are told that they visited the Offin Shelter Belt area, where there have been some military deployment, a joint military and police deployment to ensure that the areas around the Offin Shelter Belt Forest Reserve is preserved, where we are also told that 15 excavators have so far been confiscated by the state and moved to the regional police headquarters. He also indicated that the minister has said those excavators will be reused or deployed to help with the reconstruction or construction of roads and other infrastructure within the Ashanti regional enclave. The areas that they visited, the Lands and Natural Resources Minister and the Ashanti regional minister, are the Offin Shelter Belt, the Asenyano Forest Reserve and the Jimira Forest Reserve. These areas have already been devastated by the activities of illegal mining, and previously, under the NPP government, or probably even before the NPP government, a lot of talk has gone into fighting illegal mining. Hopefully, this time around, there'll be more action than talk, so we can have a semblance of natural reserves being restored to their natural state, because of how a lot of people have already been damaged as a result of the chemicals used in these activities. If you go to the hospitals, people are giving birth to children with all forms of deformity because of the chemicals that seep into the earth or the soil, or even in the water that communities are along some of these water bodies depend on. And because of this, it has become a national clarion call for all of us to put our shoulders to the wheel and ensure that our water bodies and forest reserves are cleared of illegal miners. The interesting thing that also stands out is that some of these individuals make it look like those areas are theirs, and it's interesting that they told the government that those forest reserves are no-go areas for the government. That's interesting. We'll see what government's response will be. Already, you can tell President John Dramani Mahama has said that they will ensure that all the illegal activities in these areas are brought to a halt and engage these small-scale miners and even large-scale miners on how best we can allow small-scale mining to go on. Small-scale mining is legal. It is the illegal part where they do it in the water bodies and in forest reserves that has come up for mention. But small-scale mining is legal. They would ensure that those that have the permit and the license to operate do that within the remit of the law. And in subsequent bulletins, we would also update you on how all of this plays out. You're still listening to 3FM 92.7. Let's listen to the Lands Minister briefly, then we can bring you the latest in the world of business, which should be coming your way in a jiffy. Well, maybe we would have to bring you the sound bite of the Minister for Lands and Natural Resources, Emmanuel Amakofibua, shortly. We'll bring that to you. But time now, though, for the latest in the world of business.
Hello, good evening. It's time now for the business segment on Hot Edition with me, Bismarck Ausa. Coming up tonight, Association of Ghana Industries, AGI, outlines policy imperatives needing government action as part of 2025 budget presentation. We'll hear from President of AGI, Dr. Humphrey Asiedu Dartey. Thanks for your company. First off, the Association of Ghana Industries, AGI, is pushing the government to implement measures that will attract private investors to fill the expenditure gaps created by reduced public spending. The AGI has outlined several concerns that they want the government to address in the 2025 budget statement, including taxes, reliable energy, and government spending. To promote business growth, the AGI is advocating for a reduction in taxes, a reliable energy supply, and a reconsideration of government spending habits. AGI President Humphrey Asiedu Dartey emphasized that the government's continuous dependence on treasury bills is discouraging private investment.
Finally, the instruction of the President to the Finance Minister to cut expenditure. We have stated that granted that is the case, such expenditure cuts should lead to areas where private sector can bring in their money to complement government, because the rural to urban shift brings further pressures on the infrastructure in the cities, and then government's efforts to bridge the gap is challenged. So we believe, as government president has instructed, the finance minister should consider areas to cut that we could create private sector participation.
Chief Executive Seth Chum Akwabwa also cautioned against imposing a sugar tax on sweetened beverages.
There's some intentions of government on imposing some taxes on the beverage companies. And we think that has to be looked at in a very pragmatic way, because if the intention is to protect our health by imposing taxes on sugar, they call the sugar tax on beverages, then it must be extended to all other products that have sugar. Otherwise, it becomes discriminatory. So we thought that intention must be looked at. It doesn't have to happen.
And that was Chief Executive Seth Chum Akwabwa of the Ghana Association of Industries, ending that report. Moving on, a finance expert at the University of Ghana Business School, Professor Lord Mensah, has expressed optimism regarding Ghana's economic trajectory, asserting that the nation has taken significant strides in restoring confidence following its debt restructuring program. According to Professor Mensah, government's concerted efforts, particularly its engagement with the International Monetary Fund, IMF, have played a pivotal role in stabilizing the economy and building trust. The IMF program, with its associated conditionalities, serves as a crucial framework for guiding on expenditure and revenue mobilization towards recovery.
If you go to IMF and they tell you to, control your expenditure lines, and at the same time ask you to find an innovative way of enhancing your revenue generation, it means that you're on track by closing your deficit. And if you look at, the budget deficit numbers, we try to move from 11% for 11.5% thereabout, coming all the way down to 4.6 somewhere in 2023, which is a good signal, because in 2022 we did around 11.8 to our GDP, and if you are doing 4.6 to your GDP in 2023, which consistently builds up into 2024, is a signal that, yes, you are in control of the economy.
And that was a finance expert at the University of Ghana Business School, Professor Lord Mensah. Before we go, our Greek economist, Dr. Felix Larry Esilfi, has called for efforts to boost local production to curb the import the impact of imported food inflation on the country. According to the World Bank Food Security Update for February 2025, Ghana is leading Africa's lower middle income countries in food inflation. The report shows that Ghana's food inflation rate hit 28.3% in December 2024, ranking it first in the region. Egypt followed with 20.8%, while Zambia took third place with 19.2%. But speaking to 3 Business, Dr. Felix Larry Esofi said there is a need to boost local production to substitute imports.
As I have been saying, the issue borders on the fact that we are not able to produce to meet the local demands. And so we have actually been falling on importation of staples into the country, which is actually causing a drain on our cedi, stability, and therefore causing this sort of high inflations. And so, as a matter of how we can resolve it, there is the need to actually increase productivity. And this actually can be done, through the use of agricultural mechanization, because most of the times our farmers are into small-scale farms because they lack mechanization. And most of the activities have also been the fact that they use too much manual. And when you use so much human effort, there is little you can do. And so that is the cause for low farm size or smaller farm sizes in terms of production.
And that was agri-economist Dr. Felix Larry Esofi, ending the business segment on Hot Edition with me, Bismarck Awusa. For more business stories, please check out our website 3news.com. Sports is next with Oreku Ampofu. Do stay.
Good evening and welcome to the sports segment here on Hot Edition on 3FM 92.7. My name is Oreku Ampofu, and we'll be starting off from the local scene where there was action, especially given that there had been some dormant on the scene given the death of Kotoko fan, where we saw the Premier League action being suspended. However, we did see some top flight clubs in action in the FA Cup round of 16 stage. Major upsets as Mediama and Heart of Oak faltered at the round of 16 stage. My colleague Solomon Amankwa has a wrap of the biggest talking point from the MTN FA Cup over the weekend.
FA Cup saw teams in the Division 1 still qualification ahead of the Premier League teams. Just as the tagline says, Obianyo Obia, Park Academy hosted 2 times winners, Mediama Sporting Club on penalties at their own backyard in Takwa. GPL table toppers Bibiani Gold Stars were handed an elimination from the competition by Atram Divise in a similar fashion. The competition's record champions Heart of Oak were knocked out by Golden Kicks at the University of Ghana Sports Stadium, bringing to an end yet another dream of extending the record to 13. These results means 3 teams from the GPL, Brecum Chelsea, Bechem United and Kerala United are the only teams left from the competition. Note that Asante Kotoko will play second 11 whites in the later date when the fabulous teams officially rescind their decision to return to active football activities for their senior team, and the winner from that game completes the list for the round of 8.
So that was my colleague Solomon Amankwa there speaking on the MTN FA Cup. We still stay on the local scene where there's been lots of talks concerning security protocols after the death of Fan Nanaya Pole just a few weeks ago in the game between Nsatriman and then Asante Kotoko. There were consultations between GALCA, Ghana Premier League clubs and the Ghana Football Associations on how these protocols can be improved. Now, another stakeholder that is usually affected by these protocols are the fans, and some of them have been speaking to 3 Sports on what they think the current state of security protocols for Ghana matches are and what can be done to improve when it comes to the domestic scene.
In fact, it's a very, very, very positive side, because as soon as I entered the stadium, I said, wow, this is a Division 1 team, Golden Cakes, against Accra. And the security presence was very, very, very huge. But the point is that will we be able to contain, will we be able to sustain, this kind of measures? It is early days yet. Let us wait until the league resume.
If you look at the security arrangement done today, I think mostly it's cut off as much as you see is policemen like this. I was not expecting police people to win a match like Haas against Golden Cake. I mean, it's a Division 1 game. And even in our premier matches that we played here at Legon Stadium, we've not witnessed such security arrangement. I think it's okay. If they can continue like this, that is, I mean, you see, in this country, we react to issues. When something happens, panic reaction, we do things. But to sustain it becomes the problem.
I'm glad what I saw this afternoon. But on my way coming, I heard about the huge security presence. But when I got here, I realized that, yes, it seems we are putting things in place just to make sure that now there's sanity at our match venues. And I think gradually we'll get there. We are not there yet, but we'll get there.
So those were the thoughts of some fans who were at the University of Ghana Stadium to watch the match between Golden Cake and then Heart of Oak. As mentioned in the report by my colleague Solomon Amankwa, Asante Kotoko were not in action, and that's because they are waiting to a later date, a date which has now been confirmed by Safuduku, who is the communications director of the club. Now, he says that the Porcupine Warriors would be free to finally participate in domestic competitions after the burial of their fan.
I would like to declare that based on the happening so far, Asante Kotoko Sporting Club shall be ready and willing to return to the pitch after the burial and the final funeral rites of the late Nana Yao Frimpong, alias Poli. And we hope that our supporters and all of you out there will agree with us.
So that was Safuduku, who's the communications director of Asante Kotoko. But it's still been back and forth between Kotoko and then Nsatriman, because the Kumasi-based club are saying that they've not heard from Nsatriman officially after the death of their fan some weeks ago. But Nsatriman have also replied with a statement saying that they've been in contact with all the relevant stakeholders and have also been aiding when it comes to investigations on who the murderer is. My colleague Mutala Yakubu has been taking a look and following the details of this story and summarized it in this report.
Asante Kotoko today held a press conference where they announced their return to competitive football. The Porcupines have not been in action ever since their clash with Nsatriman, which led to the demise of Nana Pole. Today at the press conference, head of public relations for Kotoko, lawyer Safuduku, announced that the Porcupines will be back after March 6th when the final funeral rite of Nana Pole is held. Kotoko also made it clear that they are not in war with Nsatriman, but Nsatriman have not been in constant communication with them them ever since the issue happened. He also made it known that there is a need to return to football because there are player salaries to pay and also a calendar to meet. Now, Nswatraman also responded with the press statement of their own where they talked about the fact that they are assisting the police to ensure that justice is served.
That was Mutala Yakubu ending our segment here on the local scene. But let's do some international sports and talk about the English Premier League because Chelsea have been in the news for their bad form, and Chelsea manager Enzo Maresca, now he's urged star player Cole Palmer to simply continue what he's doing and put an end to his mini drought in front of goal. The Blues superstar midfielder has failed to score in Chelsea's last 5 Premier League games, but is also on a run of 30 matches without an assist, form which exemplifies the team's wider struggles in all competitions. Palmer was guilty of missing a gilt-edged opportunity in the 2-1 defeat to Aston Villa over the weekend, but despite his loss of touch in front of goal, the Italian coach insisted that he's not worried about the England international.
No, I'm not concerned. I'm always concerned about general performance. I'm not concerned about Cole because Cole is a human being, and during the season he can have some moment where he struggles a little bit more. The problem is with Cole is probably that we rely on Cole for everything, and I said since we start that we need to rely on the team. For sure we need big players, top players like Cole. But we are not worried about Cole at all. I'm not.
So that was Enzo Maresca speaking there. This Premier League action, midweek action, Chelsea will be facing Southampton at home. We're bringing you more details, previews ahead of those midweek action, especially on social media at 3 Sports GH on X, Facebook, and then Instagram. You can also follow us on TikTok and YouTube, same handle at 3 Sports GH, or on 3 News /sports. My name is Ori Kwampafo, and that's how we wrap up the sports segment here on Hot Edition on 3FM 92.7.
Still listening to 3FM 92.7. This is Hot Edition live from our studio here at Adesawe in Accra. And like we indicated, we'd also be happy to hear your thoughts on the many stories we have for you this evening, where we have touched on a number of stories making rounds in the country. We spiced it up with the latest in the world of business. Bismarck Ewusa brought us the business news, and then also just gone by was Oreku Ampofo with the latest in the world of sports. We're going back to some of the main stories we have for you this evening, and you, just as a reminder, if you're just tuning in, this is 3FM 92.7. It is Hot Edition, and stories we brought to you a few minutes ago include, but not limited to, the fact that Samos Pharma Company Limited, which is a pharmaceutical company that imports pharmaceutical products into the country, they are currently at the center of an alleged highly dangerous opioid trade in Ghana, and that they have denied a BBC Africa Eye report or investigative report that placed them in the middle of the storm, indicating that they have actually been importing some illegal medications into the country, which unfortunately a number of younger people have started consuming and making them addicted to the medications in and around the northern part of the country and other African countries. They have come out to categorically deny these accusations and say that they have told the institutions that the state apparatus to start investigating these accusations leveled against them and get to the bottom of it. In a related development, the Pharmaceutical Association of Ghana is also demanding immediate investigations into the saga. And the other story we brought to you earlier today has to do with the fact that the Minister for Lands and Natural Resources, Emmanuel Amakofi-Boa, has started talking tough, indicating that government will not relent on its resolve to deal with galamsey menace in the country. He said this after touring some illegal mining areas in the Ashanti region. All right, so let's go on to two other big stories that have been making rounds in Ghana, and this time around we're going to issues having to do with the Kotoka International Airport. I'm sure many of you know the Kotoka International Airport. Now, the name Kotoka is of a former Ghanaian military officer, Lieutenant General Emmanuel Kotoka. Now, socialist activist group Democracy Hub and the Convention People's Party, the CPP, have both filed a joint statement at the Supreme Court seeking an order directed at the government to rename the Kotoka International Airport. The two groups maintain that such a national edifice cannot be named after an individual who toppled a constitutionally elected government, as the current constitution frowns upon such conduct. They say their legal action is part of a broader effort to correct a historical injustice, challenging the glorification of unconstitutional rule and reaffirm Ghana's commitment to democratic governance. Wayo Ganamanti is the 2024 vice presidential candidate of the CPP. He also is a private legal practitioner, and has joined us for a quick conversation regarding this. Mr. Ganamanti, good evening. Thank you for joining us on 3FM.
Good evening, and good evening to your cherished listeners.
What exactly is the legal argument you are making? I'm referring to the CPP and Democracy Hub. Why do you want the name of the Kotoka International Airport changed?
Thank you very much. And it's good you have begun with this question of what the legal arguments are. I must be very frank with the people of this country and be clear. There are two things here. We all as a country want the name changed because we think it doesn't befit us. And the CPP has been making this call long time ago, decades and decades ago. But in respect of the current development, which your listeners are hearing, I must be blunt and be clear that it is not factual that the CPP is collaborating with Democracy Hub to file a suit at the Apex Court, because I am a member of the CPP legal team. Our chairman is Bright Oblite Akweti, 40 years standing as a lawyer in this country. He's the chairman of the CPP legal team. I conferred with him when this matter broke this evening. He has no idea. So the truth of the matter is that Ghanaians must understand that if Democracy Hub want to go for any such declaration in the Supreme Court, it must be general, but it must not be that we want to tell Ghanaians that we are collaborating with the CPP when it is not true. Because if we want to reset Ghana, we must reset Ghana properly. We cannot be using backdoor tactics, populism. So these are two things, and I want to clarify the two things. First, it's important that we all want a name change, which CPP and other well-wishers have been making this call long ago. So Democracy Hub is not the first to talk about it, but it's also more factual that we are collaborating with the Democracy Hub.
Okay. So to the more substantive question, Kotoka, we know, was a military officer here in Ghana. He undertook a military takeover of what some have described as a constitutionally elected government. Is that the only basis for which reason the CPP specifically would say that they want his name removed from the airport?
Thank you very much. And I like the way you asked the question, so that it exonerates us that we have not collaborated. So, you see, the basis is weak. We have not had any collaboration. We don't know the content of the draft by Democracy Hub. Honestly, we think that, and if you look at the communique, it is the law firm of Democracy Hub, Mrs.
Mayton and Everett or something. It comes across me, if my memory is right, at one of the Deputy Attorney General designate law firm, Justice Shamshine's law firm. I mean, if the state wants to do this name change, the state can do that. Kotoka falls under the Transport Ministry. What stop the Transport Ministry going to court and tell the Supreme Court that strike that decree out? NLCD 5393, if it's right, strike it out. You don't need Democracy Hub. You don't need anybody because we've been calling for all this long time. So at the end of the day, it's good you ask me these questions. What are the legal bases? And as we speak, you can see that I have no idea. I don't know what the draft is. I just heard of the issue today. That is why I want Ghanaians to understand that we cannot vote for something we are not basically clear
a part of. Okay, but I think your earlier submission was along the lines of the fact that the CPP has been calling for this name change for some time now. And I'm asking that from your perspective as CPP, why would you want the name change? I'm not bringing in Democracy Hub this time around, but the CPP...
The CPP's argument from generations, decades ago, has simply been that, one, Kotoka International Airport is the entrance of this country. That is where we take off and we enter. It is where we exit, and it's where we arrive. If there's anything at all, a name that is not too controversial is befitting that place. But the name Kotoka is controversial. Why is it controversial? History tells us Kotoka overthrew Kwame Nkrumah, and the reasons why they overthrew Kwame Nkrumah we all know has turned out to be false. So in the first place, it's a controversial name for such a huge public edifice. In the second scenario, does Kotoka, has it gotten to the point for him to be renamed? For him to be named after national edifices? How can we justify that Kotoka served this country to a certain level that its name needs to be, given to a national edifice like an airport? So first, it's because of the reputation of the place. Secondly, because of the controversial nature of whose name it is. Has Kotoka served this country to that point? If you take Kotoka, he was a military officer. He served this country just like any other military officer. And if you take the coup out, tell me what Kotoka did in the history of this country. The only thing we all remember Kotoka for is the coup. If you take his military exploit, he was a military officer just like any other Ghanaian military officer.
Right.
So tell me, how must he be elevated above other military officers for his name to be used? So it's very controversial. So people have already maintained that position decades ago. And there are other reasons why we think that it doesn't. And also, like you said, as a military officer, we run on coups. Right. We don't want to give mileage to coups. So these three reasons alone justify why we think that it's able to remove the name from there and put the befitting name there.
And finally, my last but one question: have you initiated processes to get this name changed? For instance, spoken to the right state institutions beyond just going to court, or have you actually gone to court over this?
We have not gone to court. That's what I'm saying. That from where I sit, the Legal and Constitutional Affairs Committee of the CPP, we have not gone to court.
Right. Okay, so you haven't gone to court, but have you, beyond the court, have you initiated any other conversations with state agencies maybe for the name change?
My brother, the conversation has been decades and decades, and President John Mahama, he calls himself an Nkrumahist. He's aware that these are some of the demands of the CPP. We have always made it clear that if you are a comrade, if you say you are a comrade, NDC people call themselves comrades. And I worry why they call themselves comrades, because you want to link yourself to the socialists. You say you are Nkrumahist. So this conversation of the name change has been on the table. And even we are not asking for only, if you look at the Democracy Hub thing, which I strongly now have posited to the public that we lack the knowledge of it, it is only calling for Supreme Court to make a declaration to remove the name.
Okay.
And then but it doesn't call for removing the name and putting Kwame Nkrumah there. CPP will go beyond removing the name and requesting that Kwame Nkrumah's name should be put there. That's explicit. So the Democracy Hub thing, we agree, but it falls short of what we stand for. And we want to be clear that we have been calling on the government, and even as we speak, if President John Mahama wants to do something, the Transport Ministry can just go and invoke the original jurisdiction of the Supreme Court and strike the decree out. Attorney General himself can go and then invoke the original jurisdiction of the Supreme Court, strike that decree off, and then President can rename the place and give Kwame Nkrumah. We don't even need a court action for this populist type of stuff.
Okay. And the last question briefly, do you have a proposed name maybe Ghana could use?
Kwame Nkrumah defeats it. Because you see, the second comparison I made is that, the third comparison I made is that we must look for people who have served this country to the top.
But there are so many other things named after Dr. Nkrumah. So maybe another name. There are so many other things named after Dr. Nkrumah.
Okay, so if you go by the argument that there are so many things that have been named after Kwame Nkrumah, including my school, KNUST, Kwame Nkrumah University, which is good, the least we can go for should be Ghana International Airport. As simple as that. Then the argument dies. Then nobody is talking, nobody is angry. Ghana is Ghana. So Ghana International Airport, it kills the argument.
Absolutely.
It's very simple.
Absolutely. Just like your name, Ghana Manti. Thank you.
Yes, Ghana International Airport. Very simple. That one, nobody begrudge anybody.
No qualms about that.
All right. It's too controversial.
All right. Thank you so much for making time to speak with us this evening. Wayo Ghana Manti is the 2024 vice presidential candidate of the Convention People's Party, and he's also a private legal practitioner, and making the strong point that Kotoka International Airport should be changed. The name should be changed because the individual behind it has so many albatrosses hanging around his head, or his neck, I should say, and wants the current administration led by John Mahama to look strongly into the name change of the airport. All right, so that's how we bring the bulletin to an end. It's been Hot Edition live from the studios of 3FM 92.7, and clearly it's one that many of you have been also sending us messages. We are grateful that you made time to listen. Same time tomorrow, 5 o'clock, the team will be here to bring you the latest of big stories making rounds in Ghana and around the world. I am Martin Asiedu Dartey. To have a good evening and stay tuned to more programs from 3FM 92.7. Bye for now.